A deadly and dangerous weekend for America's law enforcement officers as we start National Police Week. One officer ambushed and killed in Ohio.
This is a senseless tragedy that did not need to happen.
3 officers shot and wounded in Atlanta. Plus, your child's favorite teacher might not be returning in the fall.
We need to fight for our teachers. Please help us.
Schools across the country are bracing for mass layoffs, while the funding may impact almost 400,000 educators. Boardwalk Empire star Steve Buscemi allegedly attacked by this man in New York City. What the Brooklyn native and former New York City firefighter was doing moments before. And if you blink, you just might miss it. 2 skydivers threading the needle, flying between London's famous Tower Bridge.
I'm feeling really good.
Me too. It's Monday, and it's Morning in America. Good Monday morning to you from our NewsNation headquarters in America's heartland. It's time for news for all America. I'm Nick Smith. Thanks so much for joining us. National Police Week begins today, and it comes at a time where police deaths are on the rise. 58 officers have been killed in the line of duty so far this year. The latest just over the weekend. 23-year-old Officer Jacob Durbin of Euclid, Ohio, was shot and killed in an ambush-style attack on Saturday. In addition, several other officers across the country were injured in the line of duty while responding to calls. NewsNation's Kelsey Kernstein is following this story for us. And Kelsey, being a cop is already a tough job, but this weekend reminds us just how dangerous and deadly it can be.
Yeah, hey there, Nick. This really is a heartbreaking new update. So Officer Jacob Durbin, just 23 years old, was fatally shot just outside of Cleveland over the weekend. The suspect here on your screen, allegedly Deshaun Vaughn, who was also killed after he was caught during a statewide manhunt that lasted for hours. Officer Durbin was a veteran, a fiance. He was with the police force for 2 years. His department says that they are devastated by the loss.
This is a senseless tragedy that did not need to happen. Our sympathies and our deepest condolences go out to Officer Durbin, his family, all of our officers and the Euclid Police Department family.
And another police officer was also shot and injured just outside of Columbus, Ohio. It happened at an Amazon facility while the officer was making an arrest. And then there were also more shootings this weekend. 3 police officers in Atlanta, Georgia, were shot and then hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. The suspect died at the scene. Law enforcement has not released the names of the officers nor the suspect. But it's not just gun violence that police face while on duty. One officer was hit by a drunk driver in his patrol car at an intersection in Rochester, New York. And according to the Officer Down Memorial page, so far this year, there have been 20 police officers who have died by gunfire. And that number is expected to increase as the year goes on. But then you also hear about the lucky ones who survive after being shot, like Sergeant Chad Watt of Utah, where police say he was recently shot with critical injuries, but then he drove himself to the hospital. Thankfully, he is home now and recovering. Nick?
Thankful indeed. Kelsey, thank you.
Thank you.
And as you know, I've come here from New York, where I'm being forced to endure a Biden show trial, all done by Biden, carried out by radical Democrat district attorney. You know who he is? Fat Alvin, right? Corrupt guy. And then we have a highly conflicted judge. He's corrupt and highly conflicted.
President Trump blasting Judge Juan Merchan and Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg during a rally in New Jersey over the weekend. This as his criminal hush money trial is set to resume just hours from now. Sources say the prosecution's star witness, Michael Cohen, will take the stand today. This follows adult actress Stormy Daniels' graphic testimony last week that centered on a sexual tryst she alleges she had with Mr. Trump, which was the basis of a 6-figure payment to keep quiet. Mr. Trump denies ever having engaged with Ms. Daniels sexually. Let's talk now with civil rights and human rights attorney Gerard Filitti, who is senior counsel at the Lawfare Project. Gerard, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
Gerard, let's jump right in there. Michael Cohen is the only witness who can affirmatively link Mr. Trump to the alleged hush money payments. Is it really make or break for the prosecution?
It really is. So far, what the prosecution has done is what it needed to do: lay out the elements of a crime, say that prove that everything that they say happened, from the transactions to the interaction with Stormy Daniels to the payments and how they were recorded. Now, what they need to do is get to the intent, get to what was in Donald Trump's mind, why he made these payments, and that's what makes it criminal. So Michael Cohen's testimony is crucial, and it is the make or break moment.
Now, Gerard, the defense is expected to hit on the fact that Cohen is a convicted felon, and some of the prosecution's own witnesses have been kind of ripping him also. How much of a problem will Cohen's credibility be for the prosecutors in this case?
It is a problem, and we know that he has a reputation coming into the trial. Jurors have said as much. So it is difficult to take what he says at face value, and there will be a need both for Alvin Bragg's team to rehabilitate him, to explain any inconsistencies he's made in the past, and explain why he has testified the way he has at previous proceedings, and for Donald Trump's team to go after him on cross-examination. Ultimately, Cohen needs to play a very close line and stick to the facts. The more he extemporizes, the more he adds that's not needed as testimony, the more hurtful it will be for his credibility and for the case.
And Gerard, how much of a problem is that going to be to keep him on track? Because we know that Mr. Cohen kind of likes to wax poetic.
That is a significant problem, and one that Donald Trump's team is well aware of. So we can expect that to happen. We're not going to see that today or tomorrow, but when cross-examination starts, we're going to see Donald Trump's lawyers pushing and prodding him to get him to have an outburst on the stand or to say something that makes him look less credible. So it surely makes for interesting testimony to come this week.
And Mr. Cohen has even been admonished by the judge for attacking Mr. Trump on social media. How does the prosecution convince the jury that Cohen, who has admitted to lying in court before, is telling the truth this time around?
Well, for the prosecution, they just need to stick to the facts and explain whatever he said in the past. He was doing so at the behest of Donald Trump. The convictions for perjury, essentially for tax fraud, everything they're going to try to say was due to his relationship with Donald Trump. And that also explains why he may have a bit of an attitude, because he has actually faced incarceration and consequences for working for Donald Trump. That's the prosecution's best case, to be straightforward about why Michael Cohen is a flawed witness, because he worked for Donald Trump.
Gerard, I have like 1 minute left. I have two quick questions for you. Fallout continues over Stormy Daniels' testimony prompted the defense to push for a mistrial twice last week. The judge denying it both times. One, was Ms. Daniels' testimony necessary for this hush money case, since the alleged sexual affair had nothing to do with the payment? And two, was she damaging for the prosecution?
The testimony was necessary to establish that she did have a relationship with Donald Trump. However, the problem was that she went a little too far. She gave details that were very intimate and not necessary. They were immaterial and irrelevant. And that's giving the Trump team a basis for outrage and for requesting these mistrials, which the judge did not grant. So the testimony in one way was essential to establish that what happened, but it was a little bit damaging for the prosecution because she did go a little bit too far and showed a little bit of bias. And that's concerning to a jury and to the prosecution.
Gerard, the former president keeps going right up to the line and ripping this case in public comments. Most recently, Fat Alvin got a great laugh out of the crowd. The judge has already fined him $10,000 for gag order violations. What do you see happening next on that front?
I do see that there will be more contempt proceedings. I think the prosecution and the judge want to keep an emphasis on Donald Trump's bad behavior, which includes all of these extemporaneous comments made outside the courtroom where he has a gag order. The problem, though, is that Donald Trump is being a little more careful about how far he goes and not crossing that line. So we see more of these comments, but no necessary consequences at this point. We can expect, however, Donald Trump will slip up again and go a little bit too far, and we will have another contempt proceeding.
Gerard Filitti, the senior counsel at Lawfare Project, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. A high-ranking member of the Senate goes on trial today, accused of accepting bribes from foreign governments. New Jersey Democratic Senator Bob Menendez is accused of using his influence as chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee to clear the way for several lucrative business deals between his associates and the governments of Egypt and Qatar. This was allegedly in exchange for cash and gifts, including more than a dozen gold bars and a Mercedes-Benz. But the senator's attorneys are making headlines with their apparent defense strategy. NewsNation's Emily Finn has the very latest. Emily, this is Mr. Menendez's second corruption trial in less than a decade. And this time, he and his attorney may try to pin everything on his wife, Nadine.
Yeah, that's right, Nick. Senator Menendez is kicking off his high-profile bribery trial today in Manhattan, related to charges that he allegedly took part in a years-long scheme to funnel aid to Egypt. But his wife, who's also facing charges related to these alleged bribes, is expected to be a main focus of the defense's case. Menendez's lawyers are reportedly preparing to shift blame to Nadine Menendez. She is accused with collaborating with her husband to steer weapons and aid to Egypt and meddle in criminal investigations of allies in exchange for gold bars and hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash, all items found during a search of the couple's New Jersey home. It's a case that has rocked lawmakers in D.C., including Senator Fetterman, who compared the charges against Menendez to George Santos, the embattled former congressman who was ousted from his role last December.
I've been calling for that sleazeball has to go, and I don't know why we have to get rid of Santos, and we would keep somebody like him around.
Nadine Menendez does have her own trial coming up in July, and her husband's trial beginning today will give her legal team a preview of the extent of the government's case against her. Senator Menendez could possibly testify, and if he does, is expected to turn on his wife, saying she withheld information from him and she led him to believe that nothing unlawful was happening with the bribes. According to trial attorney Mercedes Colwin, it's a strategy that could play out in his favor in court.
Now it looks like there might be some finger pointing. So if Senator Menendez decides that really he had nothing to do with these alleged crimes that he's been accused of, but rather it was his wife, Mrs. Menendez, who kept a lot of what was happening between herself and the alleged co-conspirators to herself so that she could enjoy this very lavish lifestyle, it'll be interesting to see how it evolves. But as a defense attorney, I can tell you that's a great strategy point that Senator Menendez lawyers can use.
And something else to keep in mind, Senator Menendez is nearing the end of his term, and despite facing these legal troubles, he has left open the option to run for re-election in November. If he were to be convicted and forced out of his position, the Democrats will lose one vote of their already slim majority, Nick.
Emily, and so it goes. Emily, thank you. Let's check out some of the other headlines this morning, starting in New York, where police are looking for a man accused of assaulting actor Steve Buscemi. Police say Buscemi, best known for his roles in Fargo, Reservoir Dogs, and HBO's Boardwalk Empire, was treated at a hospital for bruising, swelling, and bleeding to his left eye following the attack. Buscemi was reportedly texting while leaning against a wall when he was punched around noon Wednesday. While Buscemi's assailant hasn't been identified, NYPD is releasing these surveillance pictures of their suspect. People with information are encouraged to reach out to NYPD Crime Stoppers at the number on your screen. And the controlled demolition of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore is scheduled for tonight after weather delayed plans on Sunday. Officials blame high tides and lightning in the area for postponing the explosion of the 500-foot-long span bridge, which has been sitting on the Dolly cargo ship since it crashed into it last March. Crews hope to have the Port of Baltimore open to normal capacity by the end of May. And at least 4 states are waking up under an air quality alert today, and the cities as far south as Omaha will feel the effects of wildfire smoke blowing down from Canada. Nearly 150 fires are burning in Canada right now, prompting evacuations for thousands of Canadians. You may remember last June, Canadian wildfire smoke forced air quality alerts in more than a dozen states, stretching from New York to Montana. And artificial intelligence is top priority with world leaders this morning. We're live in Washington as top U.S. and Chinese officials plan to discuss the risks AI could pose around the globe. Israeli forces move deeper into Rafah as tens of thousands more civilians flee for safety. How the world is reacting to Israel's growing invasion.
NewsNation is news for all America.
So, how long have you lived here? And how are the restaurants around here? Are they good, bad, meh?
Marcy, we gotta go!
I'm sorry!
Got 17,000 more parks to visit. We bring you the best neighborhood info.
Ding dong!
Homes.com.
Hi, my name is Joanne, and I lost 75 pounds on Golo. The other times I've lost weight, I was tired, run down. With Golo, you feel great as you lose weight. I have enough energy to exercise every day.
I brought in Ensure Max Protein with 30 grams of protein. Those who tried me felt more energy in just 2 weeks. Here, I'll take that.
Ensure Max Protein. 30 grams protein, 1 gram sugar, 25 vitamins and minerals, and a new fiber blend with a prebiotic.
Want to know a secret? More than just my armpits stink. That's why I use Secret Whole Body Deodorant everywhere.
4 out of 5 gynecologists would recommend Whole Body Deodorant, which gives you 72-hour odor protection from your pits to your...
Secret whole body deodorant.
After years of taking hits as an NFL running back, I know a thing or two about aches and discomfort. Magna Life Arnica Pain Relief Gel is packed with natural ingredients that target the root cause of discomfort instead of covering it up.
Right now, pet dander, skin cells, and dirt are settling deep into your carpet fibers. Stanley Steamer removes the dirt you see and the dirt you don't. Your carpets aren't clean until they're Stanley Steamer clean.
Stanley Steamer gets your home cleaner.
Do you want to close out?
Should I? Normally I'd hold, but taking the gains is smart here, right?
Feel more confident with stock ratings from JP Morgan analysts in the Chase app. When you've got a decision to make, the answer is JP Morgan Wealth Management.
When I first learned about my Dupuytren's contracture, my physician referred me to a hand specialist. And I'm glad he did, because when I took the tabletop test, I couldn't lay my hand flat anymore. The first hand specialist I saw only offered surgery, so I went to a second hand specialist who also offered non-surgical options, which felt more right for me. So what I'd say to other people with Dupuytren's contracture is this: don't wait. Find a hand specialist trained in non-surgical options today. I found mine at findahandspecialist.com.
Need to get your windshield fixed? SafeLight makes it easy. You can schedule in just a few clicks, and we'll come to you with the replacement you can trust.
Schedule free mobile service now at safelight.com.
SafeLight repair, SafeLight replace.
Imagine a future where plastic is not wasted, but instead remade over and over into the things that keep our food fresher, our families safer, and our planet cleaner. To help us get there, America's plastic makers are investing billions of dollars to create innovative products and new recycling technologies for sustainable change. Because when you push for smarter solutions, big things can happen.
So you're fed up with that one cable news network you knew and loved, and more importantly, trusted. Did you know there's another choice out there you can trust? NewsNation has a trust rating higher than CNN, Fox, and MSNBC. And you can only be the most trusted name in news with the most trusted names in news. Another reason why America's fastest growing cable news network is NewsNation. News for all America.
Kansas may soon be offering $5 million in grants for schools to use AI systems that can detect people carrying guns. But in order for it to happen, schools must meet very specific criteria. First, the AI must be patented as anti-terrorism technology, must already be in use at least 30 schools, and must be capable of detecting 3 broad firearm classifications. And only one company meets all those criteria: Zero Eyes, a fast-growing firm founded by military veterans. Lawmakers say the $5 million won't cover every school, but preventing gun violence in every school is the goal. Artificial intelligence also front and center on the global stage. Top officials from the U.S. and China are meeting to discuss the risk of using AI technology. When President Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping met last fall, they agreed to hold AI risk and safety talks this spring. NewsNation's Elena Shirazi is in Washington. Elena, what are the goals for these safety talks between the world leaders?
Good morning to you, Nick. Well, senior administration officials tell me that President Biden and President Xi's staff plan to meet in Geneva, Switzerland tomorrow to talk about the risks of artificial intelligence. We know that the National Security Council says the safety talk will be an exchange of ideas and views on areas of concern, as well as address risks that they say AI might pose. China has also made it known that they're making AI a top priority in ways U.S. officials fear could undermine national and international security. With this in mind, the administration is developing ways to safeguard U.S.-developed AI that powers things that we use, like ChatGPT, against countries, again, like China and Russia. And administration officials also telling us the president is set to impose major tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, along with other Chinese goods, to stem the trade flow. And administration officials accusing Chinese companies of flooding the markets by oversupplying electric cars and other green technology products, a move that they say threatens U.S. jobs as well as our national security. And all of this, of course, happening as both President Biden and his likely Republican challenger, former President Donald Trump, try to convince voters that they each will be tough on China. Nick?
Tough on China, indeed. Alina Shirazi, thank you so much. Schools across the country bracing for the widespread layoffs of teachers and staff. Despite still grappling with a nationwide teacher shortage, the largest districts proposing the cuts and how pandemic-era funding is playing a role in these changes.
Do you want to close out?
Should I? Normally I'd hold, but taking the gains is smart here, right?
Feel more confident with stock ratings from JP Morgan analysts in the Chase app. When you've got a decision to make, the answer is JP Morgan Wealth Management.
Life, diabetes, there's no slowing down. Each day is a unique blend of people to see and things to do. That's why you choose Glucerna to help manage blood sugar response. Uniquely designed with Carb Steady. Glucerna, bring on the day.
Sometimes investing can feel like you're going at it alone, especially when it comes to adding crypto to your portfolio. But it doesn't have to be that way. As the world's largest crypto asset manager, you'll find a lot of people holding Grayscale funds, which means you're investing in good company. Grayscale, crypto investing begins here.
That colonoscopy for getting screens while I'm delaying. I heard I had a choice. I know the name. That's what I'm saying.
Cologuard? Cologuard.
Cologuard.
Screen for colon cancer.
At home, like you want.
You the man. Actually, he's a box.
Cologuard is a one-of-a-kind way to screen for colon cancer that's effective and non-invasive. It's for people 45 plus at average risk, not high risk. False positive and negative results may occur. Ask your provider for Cologuard.
I did it my way.
It's never a good time for migraine, especially when I'm on camera. That's why my go-to is Nurtec ODT for the acute treatment of migraine with or without aura and the preventive treatment of episodic migraine in adults. It's the only migraine medication that helps treat and prevent all in one.
Don't take if allergic to Nurtec ODT. Allergic reactions can occur even days after using. Most common side effects were nausea, indigestion, and stomach pain.
People depend on me. Without a migraine, I can be there for them. Talk to your doctor about Nurtec ODT today.
Guys, got hair loss? I know what you're thinking. Should I shave my head? Comb it over? Wear a hat? Just stop. This isn't 1970. Keep your hair and your confidence because Bosley, America's #1 hair restoration experts, can give you your real hair back permanently. Check them out because they're giving away an absolutely free information kit and a free gift card to everyone who scans this QR code. Dude, you don't have to look like your dad because this isn't your dad's hair loss treatment. People all over the country trust Bosley because they're ahead of the curve. They use the latest technology to give you your real hair back. And the best part, Bosley's permanent solution is protected by the Bosley Guarantee. Let them show you for free how awesome your hair could look with an absolutely free information kit and a gift card for $250 off. Scan the QR code. Don't wait. Scan the code now and ask about the Bosley Guarantee.
All right, I got to ask, did you see the light show this weekend? Folks from coast to coast getting treated to incredible views of the northern lights. Powerful solar storms treating stargazers to awesome displays stretching from Minnesota south to Fort Lauderdale, with the colorful hues reportedly being seen as far as Europe and even China. Well, mass layoffs could be coming for school districts across the country. Schools are preparing to cut teachers, administrators, and aides as pandemic-era funding is set to end. NewsNation's Stephanie Haynes joins us live. And Stephanie, this could mean big changes for students when they return to school in the fall, particularly with some of their favorite teachers.
Oh, Nick, absolutely. And some of these school districts are major school districts across the country who are announcing these proposed cuts or layoffs to hundreds of teachers and staff. And so, as you said, what does that mean for next fall? That means fewer teachers, fewer aides, maybe larger classroom sizes, and a lot more stress. And so what this pandemic era funding, this $190 billion, really allowed school districts across the country to do was to hire up a lot more teachers and staff. And now that that's expiring, they have to maybe get rid of some of those jobs. So here's a look at some of the major school districts across the country who are proposing these. It's San Diego, Arlington, Texas, Fort Worth, Texas, Portland, Oregon, Wichita, Kansas, Hartford, Connecticut. The list goes far beyond that. It is coast to coast. And here's an Anaheim school board president addressing this just a few weeks ago.
We know your students love you. This is, as my colleague said, one of the hardest things that we have to face. If we do not face this, we do not have a school district. We can't run a school district on negative funds.
Negative funding, key word there, or declining funds, budget cuts were already issues even before the pandemic, Nick, because declining enrollment is real in school districts across the country. According to a recent report from McKinsey & Company, public school enrollment is expected to decline through 2040 thanks to declining birth rates and declining immigration rates. The report also takes note of how states across the country are expanding school choice programs, and parents are taking their kids out of public school. They're sending them to private school. They're sending them to charter school. Homeschooling is becoming more popular, and that is part of the problem with funding for public schools because they base it, most states do, on the enrollment that they get often per pupil. And Nick, as you said, this just comes as we still face a critical teacher shortage across the country.
And
Nick.
Stephanie, it's such a tough situation because students deserve to have that relationship with their teachers. Stephanie Haynes live for us this morning. Stephanie, thank you so much. A health alert this morning after a new study shows an alarmingly high number of Americans are at risk for developing heart disease. Why the threat is increasing among young people. Our Dr. Dave Montgomery joins me live with the lifestyle changes each of us can adopt to reduce our risk.
Big deal about our commencement speaker?
Duke University graduates walking out of their commencement and booing Jerry Seinfeld. Why the opposition for their graduation speaker next.
A perfect day for a family outing. Shingles doesn't care, but Shingrix protects.
Only Shingrix is proven over 90% effective. Shingrix is a vaccine used to prevent shingles in adults 50 years and older. Shingrix does not protect everyone and is not for those with severe allergic reactions to its ingredients or to a previous dose. An increased risk of Guillain-Barré syndrome was observed after getting Shingrix. Fainting can also happen. The most common side effects are pain, redness, and swelling at the injection site, muscle pain, tiredness, headache, shivering, fever, and upset stomach. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Shingrix today.
Hi, I'm Janice, and I lost 172 pounds on Golo. When I was a teenager, I had some severe trauma in my life, and I turned to food for comfort. A friend told me that I was the only one holding me back from being as beautiful on the outside as I am the inside. Once I saw Golo was working, I felt this rush. I just had to keep going. A lot of people think no pain, no gain. But with Golo, it is so easy. When I look in the mirror, I don't even recognize myself. Golo really works.
I have moderate to severe Crohn's disease. Now there's Skyrizi.
Things are looking up, I've got symptom relief. Control of my Crohn's means everything to me. Control is everything to me.
Feel significant symptom relief at 4 weeks with Skyrizi, including less abdominal pain and fewer bowel movements. Skyrizi is the first IL-23 inhibitor that can deliver remission and visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining. And the majority of people experienced long-lasting remission at 1 year.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to. Liver problems may occur in Crohn's disease.
Now's the time to ask your gastroenterologist how you can take control of your Crohn's with Skyrizi.
Control is everything to me.
Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Listen up, America. Meat has problems, and it's gonna take us, meat eaters, to solve them. So when the world says too much meat is bad and we should eat less of it, we say no, world. We should eat more. Because now we can turn plants into burgers and hot dogs. Even meatballs. Now, plants can be meat. Come on, people. Let's punch cholesterol in the face. We're solving the meat problem with more meat. Impossible! Meat from plants!
I was getting older.
My digestion is changing.
I started taking one shot a dose every day, and wow.
Dose is clinically backed. It aids liver function and supports healthy liver enzyme levels.
I have more energy.
My stomach settled down.
I'm not planning on slowing down anytime soon.
Do you want to close out?
Should I? Normally I'd hold, but taking the gains is smart here, right?
Feel more confident with stock ratings from JP Morgan analysts in the Chase app. When you've got a decision to make, the answer is JP Morgan Wealth Management.
At Grainger, we know dealing with the unexpected is part of your job description. And you made a promise to keep the line running, to power through the downpour, to be the one who always gets it done. And our promise is to help you do it with professional-grade supplies for every industry, plus same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. Because you can't predict the future, but with the right partner, you can be prepared for it. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This half hour, Israeli forces move deeper into Rafah as hundreds of thousands of civilians flee the city, while U.S. officials are now casting doubt on Israel's military operation. Plus, sky-high efforts to stop criminals, how drones are assisting police departments with detecting and preventing crime. And an alarming new report shows 90% of U.S. adults are at risk for developing heart disease, including young people. What you can do to improve your heart health.
Big deal about our commencement speaker?
That's an uncomfortable situation. Graduates greeting comedian Jerry Seinfeld with a chorus of boos during Duke University's commencement address. The decision to have Seinfeld speak prompted a walkout from some grads over the comic's support for Israel and its war in Gaza. Some students were heard chanting "Free Palestine" as Seinfeld, who received an honorary doctorate during the ceremony, was introduced. During his speech, Seinfeld made a plea for graduates to maintain a sense of humor throughout their lives. A bombardment across Gaza this morning. Israeli forces are fighting Hamas in central Gaza as troops move deeper into the southern city of Rafah. Tens of thousands more Palestinians were ordered to evacuate the city over the weekend, with some 300,000 civilians already having fled. Hostage families and protesters marking Israeli Memorial Day by pushing for a ceasefire deal. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel will keep going in the war until it defeats Hamas. NewsNation's Robert Sherman has the latest from Tel Aviv. Robert, the invasion of Rafah is expanding despite pushback from world leaders.
Yeah, we are seeing an expansion, Nick, and it's taking place on two separate fronts here, starting first and foremost with Rafah, as you mentioned, which is top of mind for many world leaders around the globe. We've seen these new evacuation orders coming down from the IDF telling people where they intend to operate, where they want people to go. And you see that red circle that's on your screen there. Well, that evacuation zone is moving closer and closer to the heart of Rafah. Up until this point, we've seen them operating in eastern Rafah and around the Rafah crossing, but it's that slow move towards the Mediterranean. Throughout the weekend, we've seen thousands of people fleeing the southern city, which borders Egypt, and trying to get out as quickly as possible. Some have been displaced multiple times and are leaving once again with just the items that they can carry. Meanwhile, there is a second front in Gaza to mention, as the IDF has concerns that some Hamas fighters escaped and have been trying to reform in central Gaza near Jabalia. The IDF has been conducting airstrikes and operating there throughout the weekend. All of this giving Secretary of State Antony Blinken concern and doubts about the war.
Seeing parts of Gaza that Israel has cleared of Hamas, where Hamas is coming back, including in the north, including in Khan Yunis. As we look at Rafah, they may go in and have some initial success, but potentially at an incredibly high cost to civilians, but one that is not durable, one that's not sustainable.
Getting humanitarian assistance into the enclave a top priority for world leaders around the globe. And while we see that the Rafah crossing remains closed, a new crossing has opened at the northern portion of Gaza, the western Erez crossing, as the Israelis try to get more supplies in. This has been a criticism that has been levied at Israel over the last couple of days, with how The Rafah crossing has been closed, and the Kerem Shalom crossing has been closed intermittently. There are concerns about the amount of aid going in on a day-to-day basis. They are vowing to up the amount of assistance going into Gaza. Nick.
The amount of aid, the amount of assistance, and the lack of consistency. Robert Sherman, thank you so much. For more, let's bring in NewsNation national security contributor, retired Air Force Lieutenant General Richard Newton. General Newton, good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Always good to be with you.
Good to be with you, too, sir. I have to ask you, we're starting to see the Biden administration ramp up its rhetoric about Israel's military conduct in Gaza. Here's Secretary of State Antony Blinken yesterday on Sunday. I'll get your comments on the other side.
Given the totality of what we've seen in terms of civilian suffering, in terms of children, women, men caught in this crossfire Hamas is making, who've been killed or been injured, it's reasonable to assess that in a number of instances, Israel has not acted in a manner that's consistent with international humanitarian law.
General Newton, it's important to point out that Mr. Blinken in recent U.S. report stopped short of making a flat-out conclusion. But how concerned should Israel be to hear Secretary of State say they likely violated international law?
Well, it's very concerning, and frankly, from my perspective, very disconcerting that we would be publicly, with these statements from the Secretary of State, if you will, nearly lambasting Israel at this point, where they're at the height of now moving into the center parts of Rafah, as Robert reported. And so it becomes even more of a challenge for Israel as they're fighting not only now what's becoming more of a guerrilla force with Hamas, but also fighting off some of the outcries from what was ostensibly their closest ally, the United States. So these are remarks, I believe, and discussions, I'm sure, that are going behind the scenes. But I would prefer the Secretary of State to do this quietly behind closed doors. But nonetheless, we are where we are. Israel is moving into, as I mentioned, into the outskirts of Rafah, but now moving into the center part of the city. All the while, Hamas, some of the remnants of their militants, their terrorists, have now leaked up into the center part of Gaza and even to the north, which is very, it's a tough fight for Israel on all fronts.
General Newton, none of this happens in a vacuum. Why is it then, do you believe, that Blinken is making these statements publicly? Because I agree with you. These are the type of negotiations that often happen behind closed doors. So the public statement is definitely intentional. Why is that?
Well, it's confounding. First, let me say also, Nick, that negotiations are still underway. And so that's also important that they're undergoing these negotiations to set the conditions perhaps for a ceasefire. That would include Israel, obviously, Hamas at some point, Qatar, Egypt, and the United States. But nonetheless, it's confounding. I don't really have a particular sound reason as to why he would be going publicly at this point, other than the administration feels that their only leverage right now is to go public and create these public statements. It's actually creating the other effect, where I think it's really stiffening Prime Minister Netanyahu and his Israeli war cabinet to continue with the operations. Speaking of the operations right now that are undergoing, I see, since you and I have been talking about this for months, it's evolving now into more of a, what I would call a guerrilla force fight. We're not going to see a large shock and awe. We're certainly, I don't believe, going to see, extraordinary offensive operations that we saw several months or so ago when the Israeli Defense Forces went into Gaza City in northern Gaza, if you recall. And so they're going to be doing more what I call small-scale contingencies, more anti-terrorist, counterterrorism maneuvers. But it's very confounding for the Israeli forces because they are, Hamas is coming back in small elements in the central and northern part. And that the concern part is that new entry point that Robert reported on also in the northern part of Gaza, where you're going to have humanitarian aid and food and supplies coming into the Gaza for the innocent, non-militant Palestinian civilians who are suffering at this point. Once they are entered into Gaza, the tough part is with these new Hamas fighters that are showing up in the central and northern part. What will be the care and efforts to make sure that those supplies get to the needed civilians at this point?
General Newton, less than a minute, two quick questions for you. The New York Times reporting that U.S. and Israeli intelligence agencies believe Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar never left Khan Yunis in northern Gaza. If that is true, what does it mean for Israel's operations in Rafah? and the opposite end of the Strip?
Well, it shows that the area of operations that Israel's now going after is not just consumed in the north. It's going to be consumed or disregarded in the south. It's going to be consumed in the north. And so trying to find, fix, and target Sinwar, who is the leader of the Hamas forces inside of Gaza, indicates perhaps the strength of Hamas, as we see using these tunnels. And so forth. My final point on that is it's not necessarily just the Hamas fighters that are what Admiral Stavridis would have called the center of gravity. It's these tunnels. It shows the effectiveness of the tunnels, and they're now what's going to be a guerrilla operation on Hamas's part.
General Richard Newton, once again, thank you so much for joining us live this morning, sir.
Good morning, Nick.
It's like something out of an action movie. Crime fighting, AI surveilling, and saving lives. Law enforcement using high-flying drones as they take crime fighting to the next level. Daredevils soar through London like no one's ever done before. Take a look at this video. The first of its kind stunt these skydivers pulled off. Taking a live look at the Falcon Cam in Warren, Michigan, courtesy of EarthCam. You can see Mama Falcon right there with her little ones under their shelter. Look at that. We love those little looks at nature. We'll be back with more after the break.
Do you want to close out?
Should I? Normally I'd hold, but taking the gains is smart here, right?
Feel more confident with stock ratings from JP Morgan analysts in the Chase app. When you've got a decision to make, the answer is JP Morgan Wealth Management.
Life, diabetes. There's no slowing down. Each day is a unique blend of people to see and things to do. That's why you choose Glucerna to help manage blood sugar response. Uniquely designed with Carb Steady. Glucerna, bring on the day.
After last month's massive solar flare added a 25th hour to the day, businesses are wondering, what should we do?
I'm thinking company-wide power nap.
Anything can change the world of work. From HR to payroll, ADP designs for the next anything.
I told myself I was okay with my moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis symptoms.
With my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. But just okay isn't okay.
And I was done settling.
If you still have symptoms after a TNF blocker like Humira or Enbrel, Rinvoq is different and may help. Rinvoq is a once-daily pill that can rapidly relieve joint pain, stiffness, and swelling in RA and PSA, relieve fatigue, and stop further joint damage. And in PSA, can leave skin clear or almost clear.
Rinvoq can lower your ability to fight infections, including TB, serious infections and blood clots, some fatal, cancers including lymphoma and skin, heart attack, stroke, and GI tears occurred. People 50 and older with a heart disease risk factor have an increased risk of death. Serious allergic reactions can occur. Tell your doctor if you are or may become pregnant.
Done settling?
Ask your rheumatologist for Rinvoq.
And take back what's yours.
AbbVie could help you save.
Fashion moves fast. Setting trends is our business. We need to scale with customer demand in real time. So we partner with Verizon. Their solution for us? A private 5G network. We now get more control of production, efficiencies, and greater agility.
With a custom private 5G network, our customers get what they want when they want it.
Now we're even smarter and ready for what's next.
Achieve enterprise intelligence. It's your vision. It's your Verizon.
Sometimes investing can feel like you're going at it alone, especially when it comes to adding crypto to your portfolio. But it doesn't have to be that way. As the world's largest crypto asset manager, you'll find a lot of people holding Grayscale funds, which means you're investing in good company. Grayscale, crypto investing begins here.
You've had thyroid eye disease for a long time, and you've lived with the damage it caused. But even after all these years, restoration is still possible. Learn how at tedhelp.com.
HomeAglow just cleaned my entire house for $19. Seriously, $19. They showed up right on time and did my dishes, my laundry, they even cleaned my windows. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19. I love using HomeAglow, and I think you will too.
I can feel the winds of change.
Let your feet take you wherever your spirit wants to go. The one and only Hurricane helps you navigate any surface so you can go anywhere your heart desires. Redesigned from top to bottom, it truly stands alone. Now you can walk easier down whatever path you choose. Move forward with confidence at hurricane.com. Also available at these fine retailers.
Okay, check this out and try not to sneeze when you see it, right? Look at that massive dust devil swirling along this interstate in New Mexico. It formed last week with this new video showing the strong circulation throwing sand and debris all over the air. The person taking the video thought it was smoke at first, but as she got closer, realized it was a dust devil that looked like a mini tornado. That really can get scary, I tell you. The Department of Justice is seeking a maximum sentence of 40 years for the man convicted of breaking into the former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's San Francisco home and attacking her husband. Kelsey's here this morning with the headlines. And Kelsey, this is a story that we brought to everyone as breaking news when it first happened.
Exactly, and a lot of people will be watching this. The sentencing is expected to happen this week. So the DOJ says that David DePape should get 40 years for attacking Paul Pelosi with a hammer back in 2022. 84-year-old Pelosi suffered a fractured skull. He was hospitalized for 6 days after the attack. And federal prosecutors say that the crime was an act of terrorism. And in addition to the jail time, they want 8 years of supervision once he is released. DePape also faces attempted murder charges. He has pleaded not guilty. Well, new video right here showing the terrifying moments that a plane landed without wheels in Australia, scraping the ground as it touches down. Thankfully, we know no one was hurt, but soon after the takeoff, the pilot realized there were issues with the landing gear. Before the landing, they had to circle the airport for nearly 3 hours to burn off that fuel so they could reduce the risk of a fire breaking out. Now, officials say that they are still investigating what exactly happened here. Yeah, just wild video right there. These Red Bull skydivers are making history after the stunt in London on Sunday. They are the first in the world to fly through London's Tower Bridge. Just crazy. They were flying at speeds of 150 miles per hour at 3,000 feet in the air and then parachuting onto platforms into the river. They said to complete this that they practiced 200 times, Nick. I got to tell you, you couldn't pay me to do that.
Kelsey, I still found myself ducking as you showed the video, like I'm actually going to help them make it through. That is scary. Absolutely. Yes. Kelsey, good morning. So good to see you.
Good morning. Good to see you. I'm loving that tie. Happy Monday.
I love that dress.
Yeah, well,
Let's keep going. Thank you so much. A health alert this morning for everyone watching. After a new study in the Journal of American Medical Association found that 90% of U.S. adults are at risk for developing heart disease. Let's bring in NewsNation medical contributor and board-certified cardiologist, Dr. Dave Montgomery, to weigh in. Dr. Dave, good morning.
Good morning to you, Nick.
Hey, Dr. Dave, I have to tell you that I personally take heart health seriously because heart disease is rampant in my own family. Can you break down what this study means for the average person and how concerned each of us should be?
Yeah, Nick, you know, this is a new way of looking at a very old problem. I think most people watching will know that heart disease is far and away the #1 killer. And you have to ask the question why, especially because we know how to prevent it. And one of the reasons this study is pointing out is that we're not identifying people with risk early enough and then doing something about it. So this framework says, let's put a new lens on this problem and have both physicians, primary care physicians specifically, but not exclusively, and patients understand the risks that lead to heart disease and try to do something about it sooner. That's what this is about.
Dr. Dave, when we talk about those risks, it looks like that study pointed out that a quarter of the group, people were listed as stage 1, were increased of developing heart disease because of being obese or overweight. How much of a factor is that?
Yeah, it's a big factor, and it's a big factor across ages. I was looking at this. In our 6 to 11-year-olds, there is a 20% risk of obesity. Now, that has changed over time, partly because of the quality of our food source, the density of the foods that we eat, and then the lack of exercise. But obesity is the central theme. It's the marker of disease inside the body. It's not just a beauty contest. What we know in science is that it is a marker of disease. And this is what we think is sort of increasing the risk for heart disease.
Now, one of the co-authors of that study said that he was surprised that the percentage was as high as 90%. Why is that number so high?
That's exactly right. So 90%, I think it does sort of surprise a lot of people to hear that only 10% of Americans don't have a risk when it comes to these factors. And I think the factors, we zoom all the way in on these factors. That's what this study is really showing. It's saying when we don't take a very close look at these risk factors, for example, as the obesity and pre-diabetes, sometimes physicians don't act when we see early signs of insulin resistance or pre-diabetes. Sometimes we don't act when we see the cholesterol just a little bit up. And what this is showing us is we've got to act sooner to get lifestyle changes as the #1 way to improve people's risks for heart disease.
And that's where I want to close out with you, Dr. Dave, in less than a minute. What are some realistic lifestyle changes Americans can adopt to reduce their risk and improve their quality of life? Because we've all heard it before. Move more, eat less, but people aren't doing it because the study is telling us that.
Yeah, well, the truth of the matter is our lives depend on it. And our lives depend on us doing exactly what you said, but I want folks to add something to that recipe. I want you to go and hire a primary care physician if you don't have one, and if you do have one, go see it. 1/3 of Americans report that they don't have it. That's 100 million people don't have a primary care doctor. You can see there are some conditions that you can't feel, right? And so you see how 100 million people not being able to detect these early risk factors is contributing to disease. Yes, you've got to exercise, but exercise according to your health profile. #3, I think, eat more plants. I didn't say don't eat meat. I just said eat more plants. Eat more fresh fruit, more vegetables in your diet. And then here's the last one. Sleep. Go to sleep. You should be trying to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. It is important for your health and cardiovascular disease.
Dr. Dave, I have to tell you, though, in my mind's eye, your fridge is like fruits, vegetables, and nothing good. Like no pizza, no occasional French fry.
Yeah, well, you forgot the potato chips, but yes, in other ways, it is quite good.
Dr. Dave Montgomery, thank you so much for all the tips this morning. Sir, have a good Monday.
Nice to see you, Nick.
Absolutely. Well, President Trump's hush money trial is set to continue in just a few hours from now. What you can expect as prosecution star witness Michael Cohen gets ready to take the stand.
Right now, pet dander, skin cells, mold spores, pollen, and dirt are being sucked into your air ducts. Get cleaner air and system efficiency now with Stanley Steamer. Your air ducts aren't clean until they're Stanley Steamer clean.
Stanley Steamer gets your home cleaner.
Can Nariva support your brain health?
Mary, Janet, hey.
Eddie, no, Fraser, Frank.
Frank? Fred, how are you?
Fred.
Fuel up to 7 brain health indicators, including your memory. Join the Nariva Brain Health Challenge.
If you have Graves' disease and blurry vision, you need clear answers. People with Graves could also get thyroid eye disease, or TED, which may need a different doctor. Find a TED eye specialist at isitted.com.
Do you want to close out?
Should I? Normally I'd hold, but taking the gains is smart here. Right?
Feel more confident with stock ratings from JP Morgan analysts in the Chase app. When you've got a decision to make, the answer is JP Morgan Wealth Management.
Okay, everyone. Our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
Ensure with 27 vitamins and minerals, nutrients for immune health, and Ensure Complete with 30 grams of protein.
This bathroom's so musty.
Damprid's new fast-acting drop-in tab attracts and traps excess moisture, eliminating musty odors.
GA, the advanced form of dry age-related macular degeneration, can irreversibly damage your vision. It can progress faster than you think. When GA threatens your eyes, take a stand. Slow GA with Syfovre. Syfovre is an eye injection that was proven to slow damaging lesion growth over 2 years with increasing effect over time. It's the only FDA-approved treatment to slow GA in as few as 6 doses per year.
Don't take Syfovre if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye that may include pain and redness. Syfovre can cause serious side effects such as eye infection and retinal detachments, severe inflammation of vessels in the retina which may result in severe vision loss, wet AMD, eye inflammation, and an increase in eye pressure. Most common side effects are eye discomfort, wet AMD, small specks floating in vision, and blood in the white of the eye. Tell your doctor right away if you have any side effects.
Every moment counts. Act now to slow GA with Syfovre. Ask your retina specialist about Syfovre.
Your record label is taking off, but so is your sound engineer. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Indeed Instant Match instantly delivers quality candidates matching your job description. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
My oldest daughter, Camilla, she came out fighting. 2 days old, she had to have open heart surgery. All of a sudden, she's on, 5 different medications. Me and the pharmacist got so tight. She said, GoodRx can save you a lot of money. Saving that extra $200-300 a month. You do the math, the money we're able to save with using GoodRx, we're able to do all these extra activities. She can hit hard, too, for a little skinny thing. So it puts less stress on our household, and it puts less stress on our pockets.
Yeah, that is one cool whip. Miami police showing off their latest patrol car, a tricked-out Rolls-Royce. The flashy ride being used to help recruit law enforcement hopefuls. The $250,000 car, 2012 Rolls-Royce Ghost, is on loan from a local dealership. And officials say it costs nothing to taxpayers as the company will handle gas and maintenance. Well, across the country, police are using artificial intelligence to help fight crime and enhance community safety. These crime-fighting drones help officers with the prevention and detection of crime, most times giving them eyes on the ground where they otherwise would be blind. NewsNation's Xavier Walton joins us live. Xavier, this sounds like something out of a movie, but police are saying that this equipment really can help them to fight crime.
Fight crime and save lives in the process. And you know what? It does. It kind of sounds something like a sci-fi movie, but it's 2024, and that's where we're at, right? And when you talk to law enforcement, a lot of them will say these crime-fighting drones are really taking their police work to the next level. And that includes where we're at this morning at the police department here, at the sheriff's office, rather. Across the country, though, there are more than 1,400 just like it using crime-fighting drones. This is surveillance video, drone video out of Nashville. A suspected shoplifter was caught and taken into custody. Thanks to the department's drone, cops were called about a crime. The officer operated the drone, was able to locate that suspect from the sky. And then officers on the ground were able to take him into custody. And that's really the strategy departments are using nationwide. The drone, a non-traditional way for officers to catch criminals. Police say they get eyes on the suspect sooner because the drones have a camera that allows officers to see what the suspect is doing in real time. And the drone can reach places officers just can't.
Drone and AI coverage and footage is a great way to be able to do that in neighborhoods that are really being hit hard with violence, carjacking, open-air shootings.
So this video coming to you now is from the police department in Oregon. And in it, you could see the suspect taking off on foot before police catch him. There he goes, right? Whether it's big cities or small towns, more law enforcement agencies are adding crime-fighting drones. With that, some organizations like the ACLU say there are major privacy concerns. Critics believe drones and the officers operating them, they just need more guardrails. Needless to say, drones are being used in more ways. That's from catching a shoplifter or search and rescue. And you know what, Nick? When you talk to officers, some say it's actually safer to deploy a drone as opposed to, say, a police officer or a deputy because it doesn't have that inherent risk. You might risk a drone's life, not necessarily an officer's.
Absolutely. And if we can keep the men and women in blue safe, I say go for it. Xavier, thank you. Well, fast forwarding into your Monday. Tonight is the 36th annual Candlelight Vigil honoring officers who lost their lives. It comes as we begin National Police Week. The names of each fallen officer killed in 2023 will be read out loud at the National Mall. According to the Officers Down memorial page, 137 officers were killed in the line of duty last year. And workers from 2 Alabama Mercedes-Benz plants are set to vote on whether or not to join the United Auto Workers Union. Nearly 5,200 workers are eligible to cast their ballots starting today until Friday morning. This comes less than a month after workers at a Tennessee Volkswagen factory voted to join the UAW, becoming the first foreign-owned auto plant to unionize. And the NBA's next generation of stars setting out to prove they're the cream of the crop today as the NBA Draft Combine gets underway in Chicago. More than 120 players are expected to participate in the Combine and D-League Elite Camp, which will put the players through their paces with drills, scrimmages, and a litany of testing and measurement taking. The Atlanta Hawks won Sunday's NBA Draft Lottery and will pick first in the next month's draft. All right, something positive to look forward to. More than 2,500 top-ranked dogs from across the country are continuing to compete in the annual Westminster Dog Show. Although it began over the weekend, the competition will really begin to heat up today when the breed judging begins, with the coveted winner being selected Tuesday. You can watch the event through the Fox Sports app or on the Westminster Kennel Club website. I, for one, am a Frenchie fan, so I love when they kind of come out on top. Grab your coffee. We have much more news for All America.